Narrated Hakim bin Hizam, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The upper hand is better than the lower hand, i.e., he who gives in charity is better than him who takes it. One should start giving first to his dependents, and the best object of charity is that which is given by a wealthy person from the money which is left after his expenses, and whoever abstains from asking others for some financial help, Allah will give him and save him from asking others. And whosoever is satisfied with what Allah has given him, Allah will make him self-sufficient." Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, I really like this hadith that was narrated by Hakim bin Hizam from the Prophet, peace be upon him, because it just reminds us of our manners and how we are to behave. I have watched some travel vloggers, and one in particular, he's from Azerbaijan and he goes around, and I was really shocked how many people just come up to him and demand money. Like, give me money. Like, they literally say it. No shyness, no feeling awkward, no sense of shame. And unfortunately, there was a black hijabi who did that to him. And they just come up and they hold their hand out, like, give me money. Money. And you may say, well, they're poor, so it's okay. But that's not here what the hadith says. And it doesn't say that you should just go up to strangers and just demand money. I mean, that type of behavior is pretty scary if you think about it. It's like you almost think you're getting robbed, quite literally. And it's not safe in a lot of places. Just pull out your wallet and start giving money, and then you get swarmed by people and you could literally get beaten, mobbed. So this makes us realize as believers that to be a persistent, pesky beggar, you're putting a lot of burden on people. And I also like that this hadith reminds us that give to your dependents. Now, if you're familiar with American discourse, there's a lot of people who talk about how boomers, they will, they're not gonna pass on a lot of wealth to their kids. If you recall, Jackie Chan, he told his son and made it quite popular that he's not gonna leave money to his son. So you'll notice there's other celebrities too who have said this, but it's a thing with the boomers where they say, well, I made this money, so it's mine, and you're gonna have to go and make your own money. And you're like, wow, that's rough. It's like an old way of making sure they don't become entitled and coddled. I'm sure they have their reasonings where they think like this is okay, this is to instill character. But with the housing market compared to the boomer generation to today, you can see that, hey, there's a lot going on here. So helping those in your family who depend on you, who need you, is really important. And what I think is also brilliant about this hadith as well is that it tells us give first to your dependents. Okay? And when you look at, for example, like my father, when I was little, he didn't help my mom. And he didn't help my grandparents very much when they raised me. And then when I lived with my mom again, he didn't help her at all. Literally at all. But he made sure that the women he was sleeping with had all the drugs they needed, would get them gifts. He had things for them, but he didn't check in on me. He's never sent really anything for his grandchildren. He once sent like a box of used clothes, which is fine because I've accepted used clothes from people. But it's different when someone has the money and they send you like the worst of stuffs. I don't know how to explain it. For example, just give some nuance. One of my husbands has a coworker, and she has a daughter a couple years older than my middle child, and she gave us, by her own volition, some of her that girls used clothes when they were in great condition, some books, even a bicycle, a little kid bike, and that was so loving of her, and I'm very thankful. And you couldn't even tell they were secondhand. They weren't rough used; they were gently used. And she's not rich; she's just a regular person, but she just wanted to make sure that that stuff didn't go in the trash, and instead of giving it to the Goodwill first, Goodwill is a store, Salvation Army, that she would check in, and she knew that we had, essentially, a child of similar age, so why not give it to us first, right? And so that was very kind, and I really appreciated that, and we really needed it. And so, I just contrast what she did compared to what my father did, when my father has more money than this lady, and she has given me more than what my father would have, and my father chooses to spend his money on hoes and intoxicants and whatever the hell else he gets up to there in Colorado. And so, and he smokes weed every day, so there's no doubt, my entire life he smoked weed, so if he could go 1 month without buying marijuana, use that money to help his family. Well, I'm old now, so it's not as necessary. But imagine if he says, I'll send you a box of diapers, or like a hygiene basket. Like, here's some baby shampoos, some baby soaps, or whatever. Like, things you can use. It doesn't have to be money. Just show you care and do something. Shoot, send me a big bag of basmati rice, Love that. Send me like 6 bags of pinto beans, like something, you see? But again, America, lots of people like me, we don't have that tight-knit family. We're very divided. And so, this hadith, we see even more brilliance of Islam, is because it's making us realize we have a duty to our dependents. And some people, they've grown up in the Middle East, Latin America, this is normal for them. But America ain't that way anymore. And it's a different culture we're living in. So sometimes you have to step outside of your culture and see what someone else is going through before you snicker and don't recognize their struggles, right? Now, when it says here in the second part, and whoever abstains from asking others for some financial help, Allah will give him and save him from asking others, and whosoever is satisfied with what Allah has given him, Allah will make himself sufficient. I have asked people for when it was in some serious need, like when my son, hospital bill, and also they raised the rent. So it's like, if you can tip by being on the blog, that helps. But that's not persistent begging. That's not like every day harboring home, gimme. No. That's just, if you have it, it would be greatly appreciated. I've seen people who are able-bodied, they're begging. Like, I would go to the grocery store with my husband and like kids, right? And there'd be a guy who says, on a sign it said, I have a broken ankle, like for ankle. He looked fine to me. He didn't have crutches, so how are you walking on a broken ankle and there was no cast? And he was there for quite some time. It was really awkward. It's like, he just stares at you as you do your right hand turn, and it's like right next to the curb, like he's right there, the exit of the parking lot. And someone like him, he can work, California has a lot of citizen beggars, and one time there was a drug addict. He was like a white dude, scruffy looking, outside the donut shop, and he was asking for money, and I gave him some money, but he asked the guy before. There were 2 Latino dudes, looked like they worked construction by their getup, and they said in Spanish, "Se puede trabajar," like he can work. And at first I was like, oh, that's mean, but then I'm like, oh snap, that's actually right. I'm a woman, got a little bit of a soft spot, right? But some people, they gotta get sober and they gotta get a damn job, you know. But then some people, they're so broken they don't even see a way out. So you gotta take it on a case by case basis. But I notice immigrants come, they work hard, they live together, they don't really. Yeah, they might get some like WIC or food aid, but there's a lot more citizens who are more comfortable with begging. You see? So that's something very interesting. You have citizens who will beg, but you don't see immigrant beggars. And yet, if you go on X, you'll see people saying all these immigrants are buying steaks and stuff on with food stamps, with money, with my money, and it's like you're nickel and diming someone who needs some food assistance from SNAP and EBT, but Trump is building a ballroom, gave money to Argentina, Ukraine, and is not real, is gonna get his little regime change war in Iran and Venezuela. You ain't got nothing to say about that. And if you look up, there were reports that Trump was willing to pay over 50,000, some cases 100,000 per person in Greenland to buy it, to persuade them to want to accept it. So he had money to buy, U.S. has money to buy Greenland, but doesn't have, you know, the money to fix some of the problems we have socially. Something to think about. They always, it's a trope. A lot of the right-wingers will blame the immigrants and some of the needy for their problems. So we see here, if we look at the charitable heart, we can see as Muslims we don't need to be like the Magatardians. They say, if you can't feed them, don't breed them. My money, that's my money. Like, they have a lot of envy. If they got a skirt steak and you got, you know, a nice tomahawk chop, a cowboy chop, they call it, oh no, they're gonna get mad, you know. If you have some rink-a-dink hot dogs and then someone else has got some nice bratwursts, they'll be like, oh, how you got those and I can only afford this. They don't think about the one who can't afford any hot dog, any sausage. You see, it's really quite sad. So this hadith is like complex. When you look at it, apply it to your environment around you, you can notice a lot of things, right? And minimalism is what I get from this one as well. So satisfied with what Allah has given you. So watch out for that keeping up with the Joneses. With, well, I gotta get this because I have to compete. A lot of people in America, they feel like they have to go into credit card debt. You know, Klarna is a new one, pay as you go. It's all over Etsy and other platforms. And they're a relatively new company from my understanding. But they said that a lot of people for Christmas, they were buying their groceries and buying presents with Klarna. Like to host these little dinner parties and stuff. And they're gift giving. And they're going to pay interest on that. And it's going to make them more into debt. But the commercialization of Christmas is horrendous because Americans are very like, well, so-and-so all has to have a present. You know? Something I found really interesting, just to help give you a perspective, is like, my mom's on welfare, right? And my sister's ex-boyfriend, like, they were living together, sort of, kind of, at the time. And my mom told me once on the phone, like, oh, this was like, I think it was before I was a Muslim or was getting interested in Islam. She said, like, oh, I have to give him a Christmas present and I don't even know what to get him. And I was thinking, like, woman, you haven't sent anything to your grandchildren. Well, to that time it was singular, grandchild. And, because I have more now. Nor to me. And it was like, wow. Priorities, you know, like who is he? He's her stupid boyfriend. Care about your children, you know, and your grandchild. But what can you do, man? Some people, they are just ignorant. And so why does she not have money? Is she spending it on things? Why should she give him a gift? Why? Why does she need to spend the little money she has to get him a gift? He's just a boyfriend. He's not a husband. He ain't nobody. And now he's not even in the picture. your kin, the people who are your dependents, who are your family, how you have a duty to. It's so bizarre how some people, they get themselves into financial trouble because they don't have financial priorities. And also, when I think of self-sufficiency, that's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many people can have homesteads, be able to suffice themselves? They got a chicken coop, they have maybe a nice garden. There's lots of ways in which people can provide for themselves. Now, the self-sufficient thing as well used to be, like I shared once on my blog, an advertisement where the United States government was encouraging people to have a chicken coop. Food security is really important for a nation. But today, we see over-regulation. You gotta have a lawn. You can't have a front garden. You can't plant this. Homeowner associations, right? Property value. This, and that. How much water, precious water, is wasted on a lawn? There's no biodiversity in the lawn. So the bugs, the butterflies, the birds don't come because they ain't got nothing to eat because there's no bugs for them. Nowhere to put a nest. All the texturization of our environment, from wildflowers to the insects, dragonflies, butterflies, they all require an ecosystem, and that's all been destroyed because of the regulations. And so people, through this regulation atmosphere that has been imposed on us, you can't become as self-sufficient. You have a yard, front, back, and side, and they're like, oh, you can't put a chicken coop here. You can't put ducks here. You can't put quail. Now, if you got a noisy rooster, I get it, but not all chickens are like crazy. Like if you were to have a goat in your backyard, causing no problem to nobody, they'd be like, oh, nope, you can't. And if your neighbor saw you slaughtering that goat to eat, they'd call animal control, the police on you, and you could get in trouble. So, America is making its people less self-sufficient, which will hurt them in the end, because if anything happens to the economy, maybe they think we can send in drones, we can oppress the people, you put the boot of the state down. This is what they're seeing with these ICE raids, I think. I think they're noticing, okay, let's get the MAGA idiots to cheer as the boot is put on the neck of these protesters. So when we'll normalize these types of Fed operations in the street, and then when the tables turn and the uniparty makes their move, it'll be all of us under the boot. But they're able to practice their strategies because the MAGA cult was cheering it. And so when people start to riot because they can't be self-sufficient, when there's a Great Depression, worse than the subprime mortgage crisis of 2008, and crime goes up, you already have people like Mila Joy who always spams, oh, do you want to have 3 months of martial law in order to get the invaders out? Like, talking about illegal immigrants. And you're like, you're an idiot. So you have people already priming the public to accept government oppression. And government oppression will come when the people, I think, truly can no longer be self-sufficient and they depend fully upon the state. So, notice this hadith has so many layers when you apply it, at least to my culture, American society. So Allah will make him self-sufficient. This means, by implication, that we should strive to be self-sufficient. Now, that's different than pull yourself up by your bootstraps, because a lot of boomers, they're misers, and they mask it as wanting you to be self-sufficient, wanting to give you tough love, when in reality they're just cheap misers who are selfish. They don't want to see you get it better than them. They don't want to see you relax in that way. They want to get their satisfaction with watching you claw your way up that pyramid until your nails, scratch out and you're, in agony. Then they feel like what their sacrifice was worth it. So there's a lot of vindictive spirit in the American heart. So, subhanallah. So much to think about with this narration that Hakim bin Hizam took from the Prophet, peace be upon him. So it encourages us to take care of our dependents, give charity to your dependents, and the wealthy should, after they pay their expenses, give charity from what they have left over. And then to not be a persistent beggar. Okay. Because the upper hand is better than the lower hand. And we should remember further, I'd argue, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make us the underhand at any time. So don't become an Andrew Tate, arrogant, mocking, all that stuff. Tim Pool is starting to get braggadocious as well. You see, Patrick McDavid, who charges, last time I did was like between $35,000 and $40,000 for less than 60 minutes to talk to him on Minect. Excuse you me. You think you're worth that much money? Ego, greed. I mean, that's insane. So some people, they really run with it. Because they have the upper hand at the moment, they become misers. And then they start to really think that they could never be lowered. But they can. And there'll be nothing they can do to stop it. So we have to be cautious. So, what a wonderful hadith. Really makes me think. I hope you enjoyed, because I know I did. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and join the blog.